Hey guys, Chase with Sherpa Equipment Company. Today we are going to be installing a needle on a 5th gen 4Runner. If you need help in uninstalling the factory rack, you can click the link in the description. We'll show you how to do that. Otherwise, we're going to get rolling right into this install. All right, to start, we're going to go over what you will get in your package from us. We'll have your crossbars, your side plates, your fairing, your mounting feet rubber and spacers, and then your rack hardware. All right, to get this install started, we are going to first start by taking the metal sleeves out of your rubber. This will make your install way easier. Not 100% necessary, but I prefer to do this on all of our installs. Once your sleeves are removed, we'll take the sleeves and the rubber up to the top of the truck and get them put on. So prior to installing the rubber, we're going to take our metal sleeves and we're going to slide those sleeves over the white sleeves that are sticking out of the roof on your factory mounting points. This will ensure a watertight seal. We're going to do this on all 4 corners. So now your metal sleeves are installed. We're going to take our rubber. All 4 of these rubbers in this rack are the same, so it does not matter which one goes where. However, they are specific to orientation on the truck. So you're going to have a narrow side or a thin side and then a thicker side on the outside edge of the holes. We're going to always want to make sure that that thin side is facing the center of the truck. So once we have them all organized, we'll go ahead and slide those over the metal spacers. Get it down nice tight to the roof. Now the rubber spacer's tight down on the roof, this will create a watertight seal, and this eliminates the need for any silicone on this rack. Okay, now we're going to put the remaining rubber on, thin side, again, facing the center of the vehicle. When installing these rubber spacers, you want to get them as tight as you can down to the roof. However, if it doesn't create a full seal upon initial installation, no need to worry. When you mount your mounting feet to it, the bolt should suck it down the rest of the way. All right, now that our rubber's up on the roof, we can take our M8 bolts and our bonded washers and pre-install all of these bonded washers onto the bolt. To do this, just going to slide the bonded washer all the way to the head of the bolt. Once we have all of our bonded washers installed on our M8 bolts, we'll take our bolts and our mounting feet and we'll head up to the roof. One note, all of our mounts are labeled, so you'll have your needle middle and your needle rear. That'll show you where to put them on your truck. When installing these, you want your flat bottom of your foot to be facing the inside of the vehicle for this rack. Once you get that lined up, we'll take our mount, we'll take our 2 bonded washers and bolts, and we'll just tighten these into the roof just by hand. So the rear mount is going to have the same orientation, and again, we'll just get these finger tight for now. All right, so now we're going to get our side plates installed. I'm just going to go ahead and take 2 of our bolts for now. 4 of our washers, and then 2 of our nylocks. We'll take the side plate up to the truck. Now you want to be careful not to scratch your paint here and be banging your side plate off the top of the truck. So we'll keep one end high. We'll get the bolt started through the side plate and the mount. Washer on back, and then nylock just started by hand on the bolt. Once that's on, you can kind of hold that in place. And we'll do the same thing on the front. Washer on back, and then nylock just started. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now that we got both of our side plates started, we'll get the remaining 4 bolts in, and then we'll start tightening things down. Now that our side plates are loosely attached to the mounts, we can go ahead and tighten the mounts down to the roof. We highly suggest not using an impact for this. You don't want to over tighten and ruin the bonded washer. So we're going to use a ratchet and a 13mm socket. So keep in mind our side plate bolts are still loose. We're going to be adjusting that later on. We're just going to go ahead and tighten these 8 bolts into the roof. To do this, you're going to use the same technique as you did taking them out. You're going to alternate between bolts every few turns until they're both tight. We'll get started, and when tightening these, you want to make sure that you don't over tighten them. You can usually see the bonded washer starting to flatten out. That's when you know you're tight. You'll also see the rubber bottom of the bonded washer just barely starting to squeeze out the sides. These are very easy to over tighten, so you definitely want to be careful. Getting them the correct tightness is a very important step to making sure your watertight integrity is still there. Now we're going to tighten the other side. So now we're going to just start to tighten up our bolts that go through the side plate to the mounting foot. We're still going to leave them loose enough to move, but this will help with the installation of the crossbars. So do not tighten these all the way down yet, but you can start to go ahead and get them snug. So our side plates are now tightened down a little bit, but they're still loose enough to move back and forth. Now we're going to go grab our crossbars and get them installed on the back slot. So now we're going to take 2 crossbars These are going to be the first two that go up, and this will help us square up our roof, or our rack on the roof. One's going to go in the back slot, and then one is going to go in the forwardmost slot. We'll get our first crossbar started in the back slot. This is the most important crossbar for lining up the rack on the truck. We'll just get them loosely started on each end, and then we'll tighten it down once we have it in position. Okay, so now that this crossbar is in, just started, we can go ahead and slide it to the back of the slot on both side plates, and we can go ahead and tighten this one down right off the bat. This will stay at the back of the slot, and this will help us line it up off of the antenna for the correct spacing on the roof. And now we'll get the second crossbar started in this forward slot, the long forward slot. This forwardmost slot is for the fairing, so we will not be putting anything there yet. And once this is in, that will kind of keep our rack square on the truck, and then we can go ahead and adjust forward and back to the proper fitment. Okay, we have two places we can kind of figure out where the rack needs to sit by. The first is here. These two bolts should be almost dead center in this slot. The second one is the crossbar, again, will be all the way to the back, and you'll have about 1/8 to 1/4 inch of a gap off of your antenna. It's also a really good idea to always just double check, open your back hatch up, and your side plate should be nowhere near hitting your back hatch. Now that we've confirmed that the rack is where we want it to be, we can go ahead and tighten our side plates down. We're going to do this on all 8 of our bolts all the way around the car. Now that our side plates are tight to the mount, you shouldn't be able to move the rack back and forth anymore. That's where it's going to stay. And we'll go back to our remaining crossbars. We're going to take one of those crossbars, set it to the side. That'll be for our fairing. And we can install the final 2 in the other 2 slots on the rack. Now we're going to take our final crossbar, and we are going to install our fairing onto it. One thing I like to do when installing a fairing onto a crossbar is line the ends up so they're flush on either end, and then we're going to take our T-nuts, and then I'm just going to kind of draw an imaginary line with the holes to the crossbar and line up the T-nuts on that line. This will get us close for when we go to install it. Doesn't matter which way the T-nuts sit in the track as long as they're fully in. All right, now that our T-nuts are in, we can go ahead and set our fairing on the crossbar, and I will start by lining up one of our sets of holes. We'll take our shorter bolts with a 1/4 washer and loosely start those into the T-nuts in the track. You want to keep these loose, that way you can slide your fairing on the crossbar to find your other T-nuts. Now that all of our socket buttons are started, we'll go ahead and square up the fairing to the crossbar again. You can easily tell by feeling both ends. Make sure the fairing's flush with the end of the crossbar. Once you're satisfied with that, you can tighten down all 6 bolts. Once you've confirmed your fairing's sitting flush with the ends of the crossbars, take your remaining socket buttons, grab a friend. This is a very good step to have a friend help you, and we'll go ahead and put this on the rack. If you are doing this alone, it's still possible. You just want to be very careful with the roof of your truck. And you'll just set it up to roughly line up with the last slot on your side plate, or sorry, the forwardmost slot on your side plate. And again, just like the other crossbars, you'll get the socket button bolts started into it on both sides, and then we'll tighten down. Once you have your fairing loose on each side, you can go ahead and adjust. On this rack, we have the fairing sitting all the way at the top. What we're looking for is about 1/8 to 1/4 inch gap off the top of the roof. That'll ensure you have no wind noise, no whistling, no vibration. So now that the fairing is installed, the rack is complete. We do recommend doing a once over, making sure all your bolts are tight. It's also a good idea after you've been driving the truck for a little while to go back through. Once again, make sure all your bolts are still tight. After that, you should have no problems. If you experience any kind of wind noise or vibration, feel free to give us a call. Shoot us an email. We're happy to help diagnose that. Other than that, the truck looks great. He's all set to go.